Ladies and gentlemen, I can't hear myself because I forgot to put my headphones on and plug them in, and he's the only one with the splitter. We are severely late tonight, and I apologize to our whole 2 viewers. As you can probably hear, we have a special guest tonight. We have Jair. Do you want me to say your last name or just say Jair?
Jair. Just say Jair. Yeah.
We got Jair chilling over here. He's one of our friends. Matthew's sitting over in the producer chair. You can't hear him. You can hear me while you're on him for some reason because I forgot to give him a microphone. So we're all over the place tonight, and it's been a hectic Monday for me. I was really busy at work. I had to redo the entire IT infrastructure at my work, which was hell. And now we're here. So, what are we talking about tonight?
Well,
I don't know why I'm asking.
I'm the guest. Yeah.
So tonight we're going to be talking about religion. Right off the bat, heavy topics. You know how it is on this podcast. We don't pull punches, and we only pull punches when they're aimed at Cameron or Matthew.
Yeah. Amen.
If with our guests, we don't pull punches. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. But before we get started, I have to do the self-promotion. We're having way too much fun tonight. So before we get started, if you do like what we do here, hit the subscribe button and the bell for notifications so you don't miss another episode of the AstroCast Live. You can follow me at joe.czall on Instagram, and you can find this podcast Fridays at 5 p.m. Anywhere you would like to find your podcast, whether that be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever you like. What else do we got? We got clips. That's a new thing we're doing. Clips come out every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 2 p.m. And I think I have to edit some more clips this weekend. So, without further ado, let's get into it. And since you're the guest, I like to start out with asking some questions.
Go ahead.
So, my first question to you is, what's your name? I'm kidding.
It's like, dang.
I forgot your name. What's your name?
I forgot the introduction already.
Yeah. No. So, what's your background in?
So, my background, I basically actually went from K through 8.
No, you're fine. You keep talking.
Okay. From
sorry.
K through 8, I actually went to a religious school.
Okay.
So I feel like today's topic is gonna be great.
Okay.
And then from high school, I studied engineering, and now I'm actually a music major in college. So it's a wide mix of everything.
Yeah, definitely. All right, and everyone obviously knows I'm a confirmed Catholic. People who watch the show, and I'm definitely a religious guy, definitely a philosophical guy. So that's my background, and definitely a science guy. I'm an engineering major, so yeah, we're gonna have some fun tonight. But my next question for you is, having come from a religious school, what if you don't mind me asking, what religion was the school? Was it Christian?
It was actually Catholic.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
actually a confirmed Catholic as well.
Oh, okay.
But I don't practice.
Okay.
So I just consider myself spiritual, but not religious.
Okay. Respect that. So as a spiritual guy, non-practicing Catholic, what is your take on the purpose of religion in a society?
I think it gives people peace of mind in a society. I think it gives people order.
Mm-hmm.
And I think while it is also a method, why it does give you peace of mind, I think it's also, in a sense, used to kind of for control too.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's always an authority figure at the very top who has, in the case of Catholicism, the Pope,
Okay.
who has the utmost power. So I just feel like it's a bit of both.
So it's kind of a controlling aspect, like a coercive aspect, but also it can be used for good, is what you're saying.
Yes.
So more of what I was asking is, like, what is its purpose in society? Like, is it supposed, as a societal institution, what is it supposed to do? What does it actually do? Like, the effects it has on people in society.
I think the intended purpose, again, is just to make the world a better place, as with every other religion. But, not every religion ends up making the world a better place.
Well, we're just talking about, like, religion in general.
Okay, so I think the purpose is to make the world a better place. Because
Okay.
in religion, or at least the ones I'm used to, like Catholicism, it's about being a better person, being, yourself, and reaching enlightenment. So I
Okay.
think it's about self-improvement. But I think currently, while it still holds that identity, I feel like it also has a lot of control, because you see a lot of religious figures having very strong political beliefs and projecting those out to their respective, like,
Almost kind of
groups.
losing like
The,
the goal or
yeah,
the purpose.
the grace of it.
And speaking of purpose, that's actually my idea of what the purpose of religion is supposed to be, is to actually give people purpose. I think that fundamentally is what religion does. While there are definitely cases of religion improving society, there's also definitely cases of religion hurting society. Jonestown, drinking the Kool-Aid.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just to name one. But religion by nature, uh, humanity is a spiritual species. We fundamentally need purpose in our lives to be able to be able to properly function in a sense. And if we don't have purpose, we're always looking for purpose, and if we don't find it with religion, we replace it with something else. And I think that's a big problem that we're having today, but that's another topic for another time. In terms of religion, I think there's definitely good and there's definitely bad, like you were saying. And in terms of specifically Catholicism, I think you're absolutely right. There has been sort of and I've seen it at like just local churches too, but where you get so caught up in the day-to-day like minutia, or even just the politics of our country, and you kind of lose sight of what you're supposed to be doing. And I think that's when it kind of gets derailed a little bit. Ultimately, I think you're onto something when you say that Christianity is one of the goals is to make the world a better place. But I think it does that by proxy. I think its first goal is to help you become the best version of yourself. And then by proxy, that makes the world a better place, if you get my drift. But I don't want to talk the whole time, so what's your opinion on this? You have a counter argument, or?
I agree. I agree what you mean by proxy, because if you better yourself, you better the world. But I think it's also kind of direct too, because I believe one of the golden rules is help thy neighbor. So in a sense, it is directly telling you how to do it. But something I do agree about, or do counter about religion, is that it's kind of, I don't want to say outdated, but it's kind of outdated in a sense where the rules are nearly the same as they've been for hundreds, if not thousands of years, like very traditional rules.
Okay.
At least if you're very orthodox. For example, I took a trip to the Middle East, and you weren't allowed into a church, for example, for a woman, if you're wearing shorts or a skirt. You had to cover your legs.
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, it might be changing now, but from what I've seen personally, it seems kind of stuck in the past.
Okay. Is that necessarily a bad thing to be stuck in the past? Like, do traditions and morals... Ultimately, societies and traditions and morals change, but should religions change with society? Because what if a society, and I love using the Nazis as an example because it's so polarizing in the sense of, everyone agrees that they were bad. But it's a great analogy to use. So in the terms of Nazis, their society shifted and their religion shifted along with it. Arguably, that was a bad thing. So my point is, should religion shift with the society if the society is shifting in a bad direction?
I don't think it should, because, again, I feel like religion is that stabilizing factor.
Okay. So then, looking at our society now, I think there's good things and there's bad things in the directions that we're heading. What would you have religion shift to match our society? And you don't have to get to a specific religion if you don't want to, or you could say a specific religion. But I think some religions, I'll probably get flack for this, but I think ultimately some religions are better than others. I don't think there is ultimately all the Abrahamic religions, we ultimately worship the same God, and I think there is definitely some merit in that. As a Catholic, I think Christianity is the right way to do things, but I don't want to discount that. We all believe in the same God. But I forgot where I was going with that. I kind of lost my train of thought. Oh, yes. Yeah. Thank you. So, as a society today, I think we've definitely changed a lot in the past, even 50 years, just because technology has advanced so fast, and our morals and values as a society have shifted drastically with this change in technology. So what do you think, along those lines, about religion shifting to match societal views and morals?
It's a tough one too because honestly, when you said the way things have been getting, religion really has been a stabilizing factor.
Yeah.
When I mean that things should change, it's like very minute details, like the no shorts in a church kind of thing. Because I feel like it is respectful, to wear pants in a church, but at the same time, I feel like maybe you just want to show up, worship, but you have shorts. Like I don't think they should kick you out for that.
I don't think they do that in America.
Oh, definitely not. No, definitely
not in America. Okay.
But I feel like just little things like that. Okay. But honestly, overall, it should definitely stand firm because if religion changes, then what are people? People don't have a stable rock to rely on if their stable rock changes. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think religion is one of those things that needs to stay stable and unchanging because ultimately, I think we get those values from Jesus, and I think those are good values, and I don't think that they should change because who are we to argue with God, I mean, that's my take on that topic right there. Hey, Matthew, do you have anything to add from all the way over there?
All the way over here?
Yeah.
Nothing. It's a beautiful conversation.
I don't even know if they can hear you or not.
I can hear myself.
Oh, you can?
Barely.
Okay.
Barely.
But, yeah, Matthew's pushing buttons over there, and I forgot to give him my microphone. Shame on me.
He could shout.
Yeah, well, I actually don't have another microphone. I only have two. Eventually, I'm going to buy 2 more microphones eventually, and I'm going to have the arms, so it'll be, like, right in front of your face.
Cool.
And then I'm also, when our ship comes in, I'm gonna buy the perfect like camera setup and the perfect HDMI switcher, but.
And then we'll have the back LEDs, neon sign.
We'll have an actual like
not a
backdrop,
blanket,
not a sheet. Yeah, Matthew will have a backdrop. Actually, this will probably become Matthew's backdrop, and we'll.
On the port side right now.
So, anyway, what's up? 4 viewers. I was like, I thought you were raising your hand. No. If any of our 4 viewers want to give us any chats to come in on the conversation at any time, be my guest. We will read them as they come. Matthew, do we have any chats? No? Okay. Well, keep us notified, and we will respond. But religion is sometimes a touchy subject. I think it gets a lot of people fired up, but honestly, these days, I think politics gets people more fired up than religion. Oh, yeah. I think it's actually a safer conversation to have on YouTube or just in general about religion because I think ultimately, I think our society is shifting away from religion, like stereotypical like religion, and more towards idolizing people and ideas. And I think that's kind of dangerous because when you replace God or religion with something that's not, then what does your purpose become? Your purpose becomes to be exactly like that person or to please that person or idea or group of people. And when that person or group of people is imperfect, as people are, and ultimately religion is imperfect too, but I think when it's based on a moral framework that's, traditionally good, I think that has more of a moral background than some celebrity or politician. So what do you think your take on this shift in society, kind of away from religion, like a secularization? Go ahead.
I feel from what I've noticed, it's both extremes. Either people are really going towards religion or really ahead. There's no in between from what I've seen, honestly. Okay. Or at least it's harder to find now. That's kind of what I've seen personally on my end. But it does make sense, especially I feel like this interlaces with politics.
Oh, yeah,
because
definitely.
People are using religion to fight against these politicians and all that are occurring. So that's just kind of what I see.
Do you think people are replacing religion with politics?
In a sense, yeah. I feel like they're idolizing a lot of political figures and saying their word is, law.
Gospel, yeah.
When it goes against some religious rules. So I've actually seen some religious people compare these politicians to, Satanists or other stuff.
Yeah.
But again, that's on the extreme end.
Yeah.
But I do see what you mean. They are definitely idolizing, religious figures.
What do you think the ramifications of that is?
Morally, if you think you're in the right, technically you don't have any moral ramifications. But when it comes to spiritual ramifications, I don't know. Because the way I see religion is, if you don't know you're doing wrong, are you really doing wrong in your eyes?
So that goes back to a conversation we had a long time ago on the podcast that this just made me remember. Is there an absolute truth?
Exactly. I want to bring the topic of Nazis. You said it's the most polarized.
It is.
Nazis?
It's the best example because it is the most universally hated group.
Exactly. Nazis bad, but if a boy was raised as a Nazi and everyone around him was kind to him, but they were Nazis, and he grew up thinking it was good, how is he supposed to know it's bad?
Well, ultimately, I think if you look at what the Nazis did, it's hard because if you look at their perspective, and we were doing this a while ago, we were looking at the perspective through history of, what would it have been like to be a Nazi or Hitler during that time period, and it's like, well, is it ignorance or malice? And that we were coming back to that. Is it ignorance or malice? Were they unaware of the evil that was going on, or were they genuinely evil? And to your credit, you're saying, well, what if they saw the evil and thought that was good? I don't think you can see people torturing and killing and maiming and raping other people. I don't think you can see that as anything but evil. I think that goes against the human condition, and I think there'll always be that voice in the back of your head that'll say, something's not right here. I don't have experience in stuff like that. I'm not a Nazi. I didn't live during the time period, so ultimately, I that's my take on it. But we'll never really know that for sure unless you're in that situation. But what do you think the societal ramifications of going away from religion are? Where do you think it moves us to as a society?
I believe the way it's headed like that, it would normalize things that have generally in the past not been thought of as moral.
Okay.
In a sense, I don't really want to get into it because it's real borders on the political topics.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I just feel like it heads towards a more demoralized, further away from goods and morals kind of state.
So do you think because I don't want to get political, because I know you don't want to get political, and you know that I don't care about getting political, but I know you care about getting political, so we're going to try not to get political. That was the longest way to say that. I digress, which is another thing I say a lot on this podcast. Anyway, I digress. Without getting too political, there are a lot of polarizing issues that take a stance because of religion, and you're saying because we are going away from religion and kind of replacing our morals and values, there are certain issues that come up because of that. My question is more of, what are the ramifications of just replacing religion? Because the way I look at it, religion gives you purpose. Not necessarily like the religion itself, but more of surrendering to a higher power, or understanding that there are things greater than yourself at work, and to become the best version of yourself, you can... I'm probably preaching right now.
I see what you mean now. Okay.
But you see what I mean. What are the ramifications of removing religion completely from the society?
I'll get down to the individual and tell you how this affects the whole society. So, historically, God or the religious figure has been the stable. A person is inspired to work by the idea of God, of heaven, of, inspired. But if we replace that with something earthly here, for example,
I'm sorry,
like a rocket gift. Okay.
No,
So let's say you're motivated by God, right? It's what makes you want to do good. So it leads you and makes you happy in life. Let's say we replace that with something material, like the goal of obtaining money, love.
I'm sorry, I'm cracking up because I don't know what Matthew's doing. Sorry, keep going.
Rocket gifts. Okay. The goal of attaining, let's say, love, money, those things, as much as it sucks to say, they could go away just like that.
Yeah.
And when that goes away, people tend to get depressed, and depressed people tend to do very impulsive things and make rash decisions. And I feel like it go from one individual to a whole society, because if no one has something stable to rely on, because everything goes away, except, for religious people, that stability.
Stable, yeah.
So everything else, you can lose in an eye. You can go bankrupt. You can get broken up with.
I see what you're saying.
And it could destabilize people, and if the people are destabilized, the society could get destabilized. And in turn, who knows what else could happen.
So I'm curious. Oh, so go ahead. What you got a chat? Okay.
Edward says, let's society normalize murder such as euthanization if God is taking out the moral compass. Can we someone read this?
Here, give it to me.
Maybe I'm reading it.
All right, so Edward, who is our most frequent chatter. Actually, is it Edward, Alex?
Either one.
They're both pretty frequent chatters. But anyway.
Nice.
let's.
That's what I was
Okay, hold on. No, I got it.
You got it right. Translate for me.
I'll translate from Edwardish.
Yeah.
If society were to normalize, hold on. This is
You're in trouble too.
Just suffering over here, like.
Okay. If God is taken out, there is no more moral compass, and society. No, that doesn't make sense either. Okay, let me just read it as it is. Let's society normalize murder, such as euthanasia, if God is taken out of the moral compass. So he's saying society could or would normalize murder or euthanasia if God is taken out of the moral compass. Do you agree with that? Disagree with that?
See, the thing about that with religion, it's hard to tell because back then, if you read the book, they talked about, eternal damnation and death and all that for those who don't follow it.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say it was normalizing murder, but then again...
No, I think he's saying if we take God out of the
equation,
then society would normalize murder.
I think it could eventually lead to that. I
think you're right. I honestly do because look at what it was like before Christianity. People would line up for miles to see a stoning. The crucifixions of the Roman Empire, it was barbaric times and people had it bad. And ultimately, I think the values that Christianity brought forth, or Jesus brought forth, were very radical and different. And we kind of take that for granted now of seeing, oh, well, obviously this is good, but people don't realize that that's definitely a Judeo-Christian moral framework right there and is not necessarily followed by everyone in the world. And it hasn't always been like that, too. So I think if you remove that, people will go back to a barbaric nature simply because we have the survival instinct inside of us. And also just mob rule, mob mentality is an insane thing. And we've seen that recently we just saw that. Now, I'm not going to get political, but mob violence can be an insane thing. And so I think, and especially since our society is kind of moving towards more and more of just an open democracy, I think Thomas Jefferson said, democracy is just mob rule. And I think if we completely get rid of religion and we move completely towards this open democracy, it's gonna go back towards what Edward was saying. Ultimately, I lost my train of thought again. What's your take on this?
I mean, it makes sense. He did make me think of the idea that if a leader is fueled, I'm not agreeing with, I think religion is good. It's a very stabilizing factor. And fundamentally, what it teaches you is good. Be a good person, be good to everyone else. So it does make sense that fundamentally, if the leaders of a country follow those rules, it would make sense and it would be stable.
Okay. So looking at the world right now, which I know is bordering on politics, but just looking at the world right now that we're living in, there's a lot of turmoil right now. And I think, have you ever heard of generational theory?
Rings a bell.
So there's a book by, it's a theory by William Strauss and Neil Howe. And their whole idea, generational theory, is essentially weak men make bad times make strong men make good times make weak men.
Yeah.
So it's a cycle of 4. There's 4 seasons, winter, spring, summer, fall. And right now on the cycle, we just started in 2008 or 2001, somewhere right around there. We started heading into the 4th turning, or the final season, which always ends in a global catastrophe, war, this big conflict that's usually of epic proportions as a culminating factor of all of the turnings. And that's essentially what we're heading into now. The last one was 80 years ago, which was World War II. And before that, it was...
you can almost say World War I believe.
World War I and World War II were kind of like the same in the same spot. There wasn't 4 generations in between World War I and II. It was kind of 1 or 2 generations, World War I was definitely like the starting point of the 4th turning, and then World War II was the ending. And then, so now we're at, I don't know if you remember, before COVID, we had scares about World War III.
Oh, yeah.
And now now more than ever, we're having scares about World War III, and it's specifically even like a micro-nuclear war. And as scary as that is, it's predictable. You know, this generational theory has predicted this, and the reason being is that when you have a generation of strong men that just came out of hard times and that made them strong, they want to make this, you know, beautiful society so their children will never know pain, you know, never have to go through what they went through. And so they make this good time. And then there's, you know, a generation that's living in that good time but still kind of has the experience from that older generation. The next generation has no experience and no knowledge of the hard work that the previous generation, their grandparents' generation, they have no knowledge or experience of what they went through. So they have no appreciation or knowledge of, you know, going through the struggle. And so they take for granted that good time. And because they have always known that good time, just by through taking it for granted, they create a weaker time or bad time. And they you know, it culminates with weak leaders, and then they start wars. And other stuff too, like the Great Depression was kind of the fall before the war.
The fall before the bigger fall.
Yeah, the fall before the bigger fall. But essentially that's what it is. And then the whole going through the fourth turning, the final bad time, it then creates the strong men again. And then they rebuild society, and it just keeps on repeating. So what's your take on this?
I mean, it makes sense. It
makes a lot of sense. So, looking at where we are now, we're going into hard times. Our generation, and this, I was talking to Matthew about this in the car on the way over here. Our generation has taken for granted the relatively peaceful and good times that we were born into. And I genuinely think a lot of our generation is kind of weak. And I want to know what your opinion on this, and where do you think this leads us into the fourth turning?
So, what's currently happening, I feel like it could either de-escalate, leave it as it is, or it's just going to explode into a whole disaster. But the thing about our country, the last time we were personally attacked as a country, as a nation, if you exclude terror attacks, of course, was Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
Generations ago. So I feel like that's the only...
80 years ago.
80 years ago, exactly. So I feel like this generation really does know nothing about it right now, because we think, you know, for example, Ukraine, it's just so far away.
Yeah.
In reality, it's right here, just around the corner. But the way most people see it, it's far away. It's not our problem. And I don't think anyone's going to wake up until something actually happens.
Until it actually affects them.
Until it actually affects us. Until, for example, food shortages are predicted, if that actually happens. Or until there's attack on our country. So honestly, it's hard to tell where we're going to go.
So I've told Matthew this, I've told Cameron and Nick this, I've told everyone this. I probably already told you this, so people are probably tired of me saying it. But by 2030, that's the turning point. So plus or minus 10 years, generally, is when I'm honestly, I don't see how we don't go into World War III. It might not be because of this conflict that's going on right now, but I don't see how, with the tensions that are going on, with the problems we face as a species, and with just the amount of weak people we have in our generation. And I don't mean that to insult anybody. I honestly, I don't. I don't mean that to insult anybody, because there's things that I look upon myself and I say, wow, that was really weak. And I think it just comes from, we've been born into relatively good and peaceful times with relatively is the word I was looking for. Relatively, economically prosperous times. And we've kind of just, through taking that for granted, we haven't really had to work, and so I think it's going to be a shock for our generation when we have to actually sacrifice something. So ultimately, I think there is no way that we can avoid going into World War III. It's kind of pessimistic, but genuinely, if we prepare as if it's going to happen, You know, if it doesn't, that's great. You know, but I would rather have prepare for something that never happens than to be caught unprepared in a world war.
So what do you think we're gonna have to sacrifice? Money, food, being drafted. What do you think that sacrifice would be?
So that's a good question. I don't think that the U.S. is going to draft unless it gets really bad. I think the U.S. military, it's honestly, well, the U.S. military kind of is at a point right now in the current administration, it's not exactly at its strongest it's ever been. And they kind of don't really focus on defense anymore and kind of focus more on inclusion and equity and, well, as Tim Pool likes to say it, I don't know if any of you watch Tim Pool, but he calls it diversity, inclusion, and equity, which stands for DIE. So, oh, and the other one I like is critical race applied principles, which also stands for crap. So, anyway, what was I saying? I lost my train of thought.
What we'd have to sacrifice.
What we'd have to sacrifice. In World War II, we had to ration. I definitely think rationing fuel is coming sooner than we think, because I don't see how, unless we start making our own fuel again, I don't see how we. You bring up a picture of Tim Pool. Oh my God, is that him without a beanie?
That's just for
Oh my God, that's hilarious. I haven't seen Tim Pool without a beanie. That must be photoshopped.
No,
Oh, that's photoshopped.
No.
Yeah, he's not bald. Anyway. See, look at him. He's like totally derailing me.
Straight up, yeah.
He's like literally just putting that on the screen so that I can.
Lego Star Wars. I'm excited for that.
Hey, don't bring that up. That's copyrighted.
It's not on the stream.
Oh, okay, perfect.
I'm downloading that tonight.
Perfect.
Anyways,
Same.
Anyway, so what we would have to sacrifice? A lot of things. Rationing fuel would probably be the first thing. We might have to go to rationing food if it gets bad enough. Especially, they're saying they're predicting food shortages because Ukraine is just like the breadbasket of Europe. They produce it, almost cursed. They produce a lot of wheat, and a lot of countries depend solely on Ukraine's production of wheat. And if they're, in the situation they are right now, they can't exactly export wheat. So I don't know how much dependent we are on Ukraine for food. I know that the U.S. produces a lot of wheat. We also produce a boatload of corn. And he's gonna fact check me right now. So let's see. I don't know what you're looking for. No, you have to say on Ukraine food production.
U.S. agricultural imports from Ukraine were 143 million in 2019. That's not that much.
Where did it say that? U.S. total imports of agricultural products from Ukraine totaled 143 million in 2019.
That's not that much.
That's not actually that much, yeah.
Not at all that
Seen
much,
as the agriculture is like $1 billion industry,
Yeah.
so I mean, honestly, it has to be because people have to eat, I want to bring something up, because specifically for our generation and the generation above us. How many people have you met that don't understand how the supply chain works?
I don't think I've ever met anyone who wants to talk about the supply chain.
Okay, well, that's fair, but I've had conversations with people, and I've heard other people say that they've had conversations with people where it's like, we have this fuel shortage, truck driver shortage, supply chain issues, and then, if there's problems at the farms, then you have all the supply chain issues, and you talk to people and you say, well, what are you gonna do when the farms aren't producing any food anymore? What are you gonna do? How are you gonna survive if we're in this catastrophe time right now? If it gets any worse, how are you gonna survive without food? How are you gonna sustain yourself? And they're like, what do you mean? It's just at the grocery store.
Doomsday prepping?
What?
Doomsday prepping?
No. The point I'm getting at is people, like, there was this guy and he legitimately looked at me and he said, well, what do you mean? You just... Yeah, it's at the grocery store. Yeah.
It's always gonna be there. It spawns in there.
Because people don't realize, and it's funny, Tim Pool, I watch his show a lot. He's a political commentator. He's kind of a centrist, milquetoast kind of guy. And he's had similar conversations, and I'm probably saying his conversation instead of mine. I think mine went a little differently, but what is he doing?
Rocket.
I
You don't have to
guess.
worry about what I'm doing. Why are you looking at that?
Anyway, but his conversation was like, well, what do you mean? Just go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
But mine was like, well, what are you gonna do if there's no more food at the grocery store? And they're like, what do you mean if there's no more food at the grocery store? There's always food at the grocery store. I was like, well, and I was explaining it. Well, the farms have to produce the food. The food then has to get on the truck, and the truck has to go to the grocery store. If any of those links, mess up, if the farm has a shortage of like fertilizer, or tractor equipment or gas for their tractor equipment, well, then you're gonna have a shortage of food there. If there's a shortage of gasoline, then it's gonna be more expensive for the truck drivers to get the food there. If you have a shortage of truck drivers, then the food's not gonna get there. So it's people don't realize. I don't know if it's people don't realize, but I think people are ignorant of the fact that we take so much for granted. What do you think?
I was thinking the whole time we were saying that, I was thinking cities are gonna be gone.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
The Midwest would actually be thriving, I feel like, because you'd have all these farmers and they, probably have the food all to themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely that would cause chaos. That's probably what they want, the enemies
Who's
of the country. I'd say enemies of the country. Should a war happen, undoubtedly they would knock out farms, because that would knock us out and knock out fuel.
Do you think they would knock out farms first? I think they would definitely knock out fuel first.
They'll knock out fuel, obviously fuel, because fuel in turn would create that whole supply, that whole chain reaction that would eventually knock out major cities.
You know what they would have to knock? You know what? It would be more catastrophic if I can't talk. Catastrophic if they knocked out the internet.
Oh yeah.
What doesn't run on the internet?
True that.
Dude, your supply chain software where you can order the food from the farm and then order it from the shipping company to ship it to your store. Your bank, there's no more money if they shut down the internet. All of our take control of Jair's Tesla on the internet. Yeah. What if the Chinese hack into your Tesla? No, I'm kidding. Okay, get us 1 second. But actually, we'll take the comments and then I want to segue into TikTok.
I love you typing. How much does it cost
to fuel up
a truck? I saw TikTok on it, and they were complaining how much is like $2,000 for this.
Whoa!
One they had.
Holy cow! Is it all diesel?
I think so.
Oh, jeez.
I'm gonna find that video again.
Is that RV video?
It's on TikTok.
All right, let's see. So we have another chat from Edward saying, I think in Canada they are having food shortages or shortages in general due to their strict regulations.
Makes sense.
I have no idea.
I didn't know.
Matthew could probably fact check that if he's quick at typing. So we can fact check that, but I don't know. I'm not a Canadian expert. I'm a United States
Seeing
guy.
as Southern California.
Yeah, it kind of. I mean, not the furthest away from Canada ever, but
not the closest.
Canada is notorious for throwing out tons of food per year. About 1.2.
Oh no! I know. I remember this now. Yeah.
Yeah.
What happens, and I think the U.S. does a similar thing actually. If you have actually, and it might just be Canada, but if you have a surplus of food to keep prices low, or no, to keep prices fixed. Sorry, they tell the farmers you have to throw that food out if that surplus. That's not capitalism. That's absolutely not capitalism. That is absolutely government control, and that has no place in capitalism.
Then what is it called?
It's called government. Keep your hands out of our pockets.
I love the government.
No, it's literally the government taking control of an economy, and that's a command economy. That's not a capitalist economy, And we won't get into economics right now. You used to be a business major, so I know you have some expertise in that area, but we won't get into it.
I just opened up another hardware store.
Oh yeah, you did. So
I definitely understand how that whole thing works.
The supply chain, yeah. So.
It's brutal right now with prices.
Joe,
yes.
Ukraine is the 5th largest wheat exporter and leading corn exporter.
Oh, okay. Corn and wheat. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Count 29% of wheat sales worldwide.
Wow.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's gonna absolutely be a shortage right there. So we got another. I gotta read this chat for a second. Edward just said Canada should join America, which I think is really funny because they're already in America, but I think he means the United States.
Something in our constitution that allows Canada to be a state automatically.
We have so in our Constitution, the clause that you are able to join the Union as a state, you have to have a certain number of American citizens. You have to be able to economically sustain yourself. And I think that's it. I think it's just those two clauses. But yeah, I want to say there were a few states that actually had specific clauses or provisions for Canada to join their states.
Why would Canada join? All the British people that
So
British
this is what we fought the War of 1812 over.
Yes.
We were like, we're gonna free Canada from the British, and then the Canadians were like, hey man, don't you know the British are okay there,
Yeah.
and if you don't go back down to your White House down there, we're gonna shoot you with some maple syrup down there,
And burn down the Capitol.
and then they burned down the White House, yeah. But actually, it started raining, and so they didn't actually burn down. So, but anyway, we have another chat from Josh saying I'm late, but basically what you all discuss is in a small.
He just wants a small recap.
Oh, he wants a small
Yeah,
recap.
he
Okay,
missed it.
so you can hand that. So basically, we started talking about religion, and the impacts that it had on society, and then we talked about the impacts of it being replaced in society or taken away out of society. Then we were talking about some other stuff, and honestly, I don't really remember. We're just kind of talking,
It's
chilling.
derailed into Ukraine and wheat.
Yeah, wheat and corn and supply chain. But I want to do a hard segue into TikTok, because I know you have some experience in this field.
Let's go.
So, have you ever seen the difference between TikTok in China and TikTok in the United States?
No.
So, in the United States, the thing that trends is e-thoughts. And, as Matthew put it so eloquently the other day, escapism and distraction from reality, just sinking as much time and wasting, and
It's
honestly,
fast food, for your
yeah, fast
brain.
food for your brain. And just, this degenerative content that's just lewd and disgusting and gross, and
Some of it.
a lot of it. A lot of it.
Except my videos.
And then a lot of it's, just useless dancing crap from Jair. I'm kidding.
I'm not
kidding.
dance, okay?
No, but a lot of it, and the stupid dances, and it's just a lot of useless stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Just to sink time into, and it kind of just makes you if you just spend your whole day on TikTok, it's just kind of sad, but what's that going to turn you into, Now, contrast that to TikTok in China and what they promote, and actually what they only allow in their algorithm for their citizens: STEM, math, science, technology, engineering, all these cool robot videos, building all this intellectual conversations. It's not well, they do have propaganda too. I will admit they do have propaganda too.
Social credit?
Social credit.
But I bring this up because TikTok is owned by the Chinese Communist Party, and I think Trump made efforts to not to buy it or something like that, or to block it, but I don't think that didn't work. Unfortunately, I wish he would have just banned it outright, because I think it's the devil. Being a little facetious there, but just contrast that. What is China doing with that TikTok to us versus what is it doing to them? And because they have direct control over the algorithm, they get to control what everybody sees. And they're showing that to their citizens, and they're showing this crap to our citizens. What is that going to do to our citizenry, to our men, to our women? That's going to make us weak. It's going to make us degenerate. It's going to make us just in general bad people. And that's not really conducive to winning wars, or to being and having a strong society and building a good economy. That's not conducive to those type of things. Or innovation, it's just not conducive to those type of things. It's just degenerative trash. Whereas you look at, China, what are they promoting? They're intellectual ideas, robots, propaganda too, but they're actively trying to build up their citizenry so that they can, to an extent, I will admit, China is not, I'm not trying to praise China. I don't think they're doing a good job at protecting or serving their citizenry. I think they're absolutely evil in that regard, in which case of what they're doing with concentration camps and all that. But they don't allow the CRT.
He's an influencer.
Yeah. I know they do that, and it's like I said, this is not me praising China, but it's just look at the difference between, what we push, what's pushed over here from China and what they push over there, and are they trying to make their society better and make ours worse?
I think that is obviously what they're trying to do, but at the same time, I think it gives us stronger, obviously less, but a smaller amount of stronger citizens. Because here you have to, I wouldn't say like metaphorically fight more to find good information to strive and grow better.
I see your point.
And only those who are really motivated for the world to be a better place get, success in our country. And I think in a way, while it does give us fewer, intellectual people, successful people, it makes them stronger than those in other countries because they get past all the fluff and all the BS given to us every day.
So I'll ask you this then. Do you think it's better to have fewer, stronger leaders? Or do you think it's better to have average but many leaders?
I think fewer, stronger because, for example, a wolf pack has one alpha.
Okay.
They don't have a bunch of little betas, So I think because all you need, this kind of stems back to the whole religion thing. Mm-hmm. It's one God. It's not a bunch of little gods.
Yeah.
So if people have one person to really look up to that they can trust, confide in, and know they know the answers, that's all you need.
But what happens when that person dies?
It's a few small amounts. I mean, obviously, they're not going to kill all of them at once. But I feel like there's always going to be someone ready to replace them who is capable.
But what happens when you have these strong leaders and then, like, take the U.S., for example, right now. We went from having I would say, arguably a pretty effective leader. I definitely had some every president has their shortcomings. And everyone has their failures. But I think we went from a relatively stronger leader to I'm just going to say a very weak leader. And I think that's definitely showing in our society and the world right now. And what happens when, especially in a republic like we are, a constitutional republic, when you change elected officials and you can't always have the same guy in there? That's not very conducive to having just one good leader. That you need multiple just average leaders so that society doesn't completely derail in a republic.
I feel like you need a bit of both. But at the same time, while it's true, there isn't one strong leader. Mm-hmm. At the same time, for example, those who lost, for example, on their side, are kind of restructuring, replanning their comeback. So in a way, I think failure just makes you stronger. That's my philosophy on life.
Okay.
So in a way, this failure for them makes them stronger. So, while we are suffering right now, it's going to be an even stronger comeback. But I do agree with what you mean. I think a strong leader is complemented by multiple, not as strong, but albeit good leaders. Mm-hmm. I think it's just a team,
Yeah, I think it's really important in leadership to surround yourself with good people. And I honestly, I think that's one of the mistakes that the previous president had, was he didn't really surround himself with the best people. But sorry, I'm trying not to get into politics, but I sometimes I can't help myself. But I digress. That is absolutely right. In leadership, you need to surround yourself with good people, and usually, you want the strongest leader to be the head of the pack, and then you want good, also strong leaders, to. And honestly, you don't want yes men. You don't want people just to, oh yeah, whatever you say, boss. It's, well, I don't exactly agree with what you're doing. There has to be a balance though. Like in terms of leadership, when you're leading anything, and you have people that you can trust around you, and you say, you can get into a discussion about, what are we supposed to do? I don't agree with you here. But at the end of the day, then you have to have that strong leader come in and say, well, we don't agree. Bless you.
Excuse me.
We don't. Oh, bless you again. One more time?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
At the end of the day, we can disagree, but I'm the leader. And so we need to come up with a decision. So if we don't, to have a strong leader, you need to surround yourself with good people, but it's not a weak leader. If you have a weak leader at the helm, those good people are going to lift him up a little bit, but at the end of the day, if you have the weak leader at the head, it's not going to be good, is what I was trying to get at. And I think I just rambled on a little bit there and didn't really make a lot of sense. But it made sense in my head. I'll probably get, a bunch of comments saying, what the hell is Joe talking about? I have no idea, so.
Is the volume off here?
Volume off where?
On this computer.
I don't know.
It's very close.
Is it on OBS? Is it muted?
Hopefully.
Okay.
About to find out.
Don't put anything copyrighted because YouTube will just mute our video. So that happened the other day on one of our live streams. YouTube just said, we found some content that violates our terms of service in your video, and we muted everything in that section where you violated our terms. Wouldn't tell me what terms, wouldn't give me an option to not do that, wouldn't, nothing.
I think it's just general YouTube being YouTube.
Well, I've never heard of, I mean, yeah, it's just generally YouTube just being dumb YouTube. But I've never heard of them doing that, you know? I've never heard of just muting a part of the video just because, you know, it's against their terms. But anyway. What are YouTube's terms of service? Who the hell knows? Do you have more chats?
One more.
Hand that to me. Let's see what we got here.
It's Josh.
Your leader should also not be focused solely on conservation of political power. Yes. Your leader should be focused on... See, that's what you have other people for. You can have other people focus on, you know, re-election. But you need to be focused on...
Being a good leader.
Leading. Yeah, honestly, yeah. If you divide your attention, you get less stuff done. Yeah, I see your point, Josh. Yeah. Not talking to you, I'm talking to Josh in the comments. So it looks like we're talking about the war now.
Seems so, yeah. Yep, straight up.
You just put up an article that we're supposed to read.
Oh, we're supposed to?
Well, you put it up, so are we?
He also did put up rocket gifts earlier too. So.
Well, we did talk about that.
True.
I was thinking of stuff to put on the stream thing, but don't worry about it.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
So are we gonna read this article?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay. Oh no, we're not reading this article.
They're
Generally-
they're using TikTok to
Generally speaking.
certain terms.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
You don't have to read this one.
I'm not gonna read it because anytime I hear the word disinformation, I immediately think that article is propaganda.
Biased.
Absolutely. Like disinformation, misinformation. If I hear that word ever, anyone use it, that's propaganda.
I just have a bad experience with that.
I do,
That's
but
why.
I do have a bad experience with that. But honestly, if you have an article saying this guy's discredited not because of what he's saying is wrong, but he's you know wrong think. This is the wrong way to think, and I'm trying not to get political.
Joe.
Like on the fence.
I'm on the fence right here. But anytime I see the word disinformation, you're immediately discredited, because instead of taking your conversation or what you're saying at face value and saying, okay, let's have a conversation about this, let's break this down, what are we actually saying, let's have a conversation, let's disagree or agree. Instead of having actual merit, they say, we're discounting this because we say so. And I say, that is absolutely propaganda.
In the context of this article, they're saying that China is using disinformation, which is this use of this term is correct in this article because it's blocking certain amount of terms.
Maybe.
For the Russian public and Chinese in
Okay.
order to assert their propaganda, help Russia out as allies.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I see your point.
Yes.
I'm going to counter.
No. No.
The reason I'm going to counter is because, yes, China's doing propaganda. We obviously know that they're China. But it's still, you're not taking what they say. Even if it is propaganda from China, let's see what they're saying. Let's say, okay, this is wrong because this is wrong because this. Let's not just say disinformation, discredit everything.
What are they discrediting?
Even China, even our worst enemy, we have the freedom of speech here in America. I would like that applied globally. Obviously, I don't think that'll happen anytime soon.
No, that's a big tall order.
But I stand by those principles. I think discrediting someone just simply because you think they're wrong, or going on media. If you write an article on media, people only look at the headline. They don't read the article. So if you say this is disinformation, people will go, that's disinformation. That's absolutely propaganda. You can look at something, just label it disinformation, and people go, okay, it's disinformation, I'm gonna, not trust it anymore. Sorry, what are your thoughts?
I mean, no, yeah, it makes sense. I was
Don't disagree with me. I want you to disagree with me.
I disagree with you. Joe.
I know you disagree with me. Whatever your
I was
opinion
actually
is.
gonna connect this back to the mob order thing.
Go for it. Go for it.
Religion and mob order, because if someone, it makes sense. I guess that kind of backs up why religion has worked pretty well in the past. because people are generally very superficial and have a tiny attention span.
Okay.
So, again, if there's one stable person like, I like you, I'm going to do what you do. So you just get influenced by them.
So you're kind of saying that the media is replacing religion?
I wouldn't say that.
Or
I would say it's more like replacing thoughts and ideas, but not religion.
trying to get people to think all similarly?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Well, have you noticed that the media has kind of been homogenized? Can't freaking talk tonight. I mean, that's every podcast night. I can't talk in general. Whenever
goes away.
My tongue, blah, 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 blah. Matthew's like, what the hell is this guy doing?
Or Jay's like, I'm trying to say something.
I'm like,
man, go for it.
No, I'm good. No, you said the word homogenized, then told me to say something. What am I supposed to say?
No, but if you look at the media, I think it's become very homogenized. I think there's definitely one narrative that everyone goes with, and then there's the few that get swept under the rug by everything on the internet.
It's more clicks, Joe.
I don't know anymore. I don't think it gets... The things that get more clicks are if it bleeds, it leads. If it's shot content, that gets the most clicks. I don't think they're doing this for the most clicks. Because if you look at it, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, all of their ratings are down. Because for a long time, it was Orange Man bad, Donald Trump's orange. I mean, honestly, it was literally just everything Trump for the longest time, and now Trump's not in office.
I looked up CNN ratings, and I see a downward
It's literally like that. No, I'm serious. So I don't think they're doing this for clicks. They're doing this for control. And everyone's going along with it. I don't really know why. Maybe there's some global conspiracy to try to, make a new world order, which I used to think, I'm just making fun of that, I'm making fun of the people who think that, but our president literally just said, well, we need to be the leaders of the new world order. It's like, what the hell does that mean? Are all these people, it's like, oh, well, the Illuminati, and they're going to make this new world order.
Those are the crazy people.
Well, but our president just said that.
You're crazy people.
I will admit, I don't think he's at the greatest mental fortitude right now.
The apex of his.
Yeah, he's not in the prime of his life.
Yeah.
But still, it's the U.S. president saying we need to be strong leaders in the new world order. What do you think that's about?
The New World Order?
Yeah, like, what the hell does that even mean?
Okay, I'm really get my tinfoil hat out for this.
All right, go for it. Go
for
it. Go for it.
Just assuming, from all the conspiracy theories that seem to be coming true, I'm assuming New World Order would be about one centralized government.
Okay.
In a way, I guess, or maybe, obviously there wouldn't be one big government for the whole world because that would be ridiculous and it wouldn't work. It would just be insane. I think, all the governments would still be the same countries in name.
Uh-huh.
But at the root of it, in depth, it would be the same type of government, same leaders calling all the shots. I think that's kind of what they mean for New World Order.
So, do you think they even need to govern as a unified thing, or do you think... Because I think what they're trying to push right now, everyone goes... When you go on the internet, it funnels you towards these articles. If you search anything in Google, it is exactly what Google wants you to see. So do you think it's more of all these powerful people are getting together and saying, this is the narrative, this is what we want people to think, and we can control people if we do this? Do you think that's the New World Order? Because do they even need to make a global government?
I think
it's if they have that.
I think it's more subtle than that.
Yeah.
Because most people kind of already brainwashed from the internet. Like,
honestly,
even I find myself just swiping mindlessly sometimes.
Yeah.
And if something like that subtle can happen and I'm self-aware about it, imagine someone who's not.
Exactly, yeah. So I don't even think they need to.
It's like you don't need a prison to trap someone. You just need a screen. Or repetition and propaganda.
I'm clipping that. I'm clipping that. That's honestly, dude. That's.
Use a third-party app for your searching.
That's how I've to go. This is all just a complex app.
Yeah. Have you ever looked up something that's even just remotely not political in Google, and it comes up something that's like totally just wrong, because it's like this weird perspective from some political thing that's like just. Have you ever search that?
I just don't Google things. I just look up Google images of cool stuff. But that's about it.
See, the thing is though, Google is the best search engine, but it's also the worst because they literally funnel you towards all this stuff. And you can read more about this in my. I'm kidding. No, you got more chats? Okay.
3 more.
I say this just about every podcast, but I'm literally writing a book about this, about the effects of the internet on our generation, and growing up in a time where a lot of our generation doesn't even remember a time without screens or the internet, and I want to talk a little bit about what do you think the effect of that is, and go ahead while I look at this. So, go for it.
The effect of the internet
on our generation, yeah.
ADHD.
I think an issue with that is ADHD is definitely a thing. Okay, let's just start physical effects first.
Okay.
Physical effects, bad eyesight, a lazy and obese generation.
Okay.
Blue light destroys sleep cycles and messes with your head. I actually did a report on this, and honestly, it just wreaks havoc. And if it destroys your sleep cycle in turn destroys your mental strength. Mental strength in turn destroys relationships with others, and that just spirals into a whole depression cycle. And I feel like it does affect society. But other than that, on a mental note, I feel like a very big thing is it recycles information. We're not making new studies and new information.
Like an echo chamber?
Yeah.
Okay.
Except it keeps getting more and more diluted with each generation, where we keep going through the same information. There's a lot of very amazing discoveries happening, but since we keep recycling the old information on the internet, we don't know of anything that's happening.
That's an interesting point. I've never actually thought about that.
Basically, we're isolated from new information, life-changing information, in this virtual prison where we cannot find it no matter how hard we try because we're trapped by this algorithm that doesn't let us see it.
I'm gonna quote you in my book, because that's honestly that's really insightful, and I've never actually thought about that. But we've got a few chats here, and how long do you guys want to go? Because it's 9:30 right now.
Let's see. I've gotten at least 3 phone calls, which I can guarantee are from my mom.
I forgot to put that in for your mic.
So, what time do you want to go to?
10 more minutes.
10 more minutes? Okay.
Very interesting. Well, I have something I really got to ask you.
Okay,
it's back to the religion.
Go for it. Yeah, do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back to the. Okay. It's
we'll
a double
save
question.
the
Number 1, do you believe in aliens?
Maybe.
Yes or no? It goes with the question. Why maybe?
So, because.
Why?
We've had this conversation.
How is that going to clash with religion? Because if God.
It doesn't clash with religion.
Okay. It doesn't because. Let's say you believe in aliens, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say aliens exist. How does religion apply to them? Because according to religion, right? I was raised Catholic, so God created Earth, creation story, all that. Does the same thing apply to the aliens?
So, what the Bible says is, well, we have to put ourselves in the shoes of the people who wrote the Bible at the time, the Bible was written. What was their universe? Their universe was honestly the few miles radius that they could walk. As that got big, but that's when the Bible was written. So they wrote, God created the earth in 7 days. That's one of the creation stories. Now I think that means more of God created the universe and everything. I think that's my take on it. I think everything was created by God, not just Earth. I think everything in the universe.
I want to ask you another thing. It's kind of different from it. So,
okay.
Obviously, Catholic, right? Do you believe this? I'm asking you this because it segues into my next question.
Okay.
Do you believe if someone is not Catholic that they won't go, for example, to heaven, or what's going to happen to those people?
So honestly, that's not a question I can answer because who am I to judge, the living or the dead? That's ultimately up to our Creator. And I believe that, Catholicism is the right way to practice. And I believe that, God exists, God is real, the Holy Trinity is something to be revered. I could be wrong. That's my faith. I have faith that I'm right. But, ultimately, I could be wrong. Someone else could have a different perspective, But in the sense of assuming that I'm right, that's not up to me to decide. That's up to God to decide. And ultimately, Jesus is your judge, your jury, and your executioner. But he's also your defendant. And so something the priest at my church likes to say is guilty but forgiven. Is when you meet Jesus, he says, "I know everything you've done, and I find you guilty but forgiven." And I think it's a question of, what is the mercy of God, and how far does that extend? And honestly, if you keep the 10 Commandments, I think you're on a good track. And if you keep the teachings of Jesus, I think you're on a good track. And I don't think you have to follow religion to go to heaven.
You know what?
I think it helps, but I genuinely think you can be a good person without expressly following a certain religion in our society today, but that is because of the religious background that our society was built upon.
Now take this, just a weird little thought experiment I thought of. Let's go back to like the 1500s, right?
Okay.
Obviously, religion was very prevalent in Europe, but in North America, they did not know. The natives didn't know anything about it. They had their gods. So how weird would it be, let's say if a native passed away and he went to heaven, and it turns out Catholicism is the one true religion, and would he just throw out all his gods? What would go through his head? Because religion is supposed to be peace and happiness, or like heaven, right? But how would it feel for him to pass away and realize everything he believed was a lie, all those gods?
I don't think that it's truly a lie. And this is a thought that I've had for a long time. I think every religion, there's a kernel of truth. I think nobody has it exactly right. I think there's some that are closer than others, but ultimately, if you look at Catholicism, you have the Holy Trinity. You have God, the creator of everything, King of the universe. Same thing with Judaism, but it's not a Holy Trinity. It's just the one God. They're still waiting on the Messiah. In terms of Muslim, it's still the one true God and the Prophet Muhammad. But in terms of Hinduism, there's actually studies that have said that the god Brahma is actually based on Abraham, which is but I don't know how much speculation that is, but honestly, my whole idea, and with the Native Americans, sorry, I jumped kind of over in my head. With the Native Americans, there were a few tribes I know of that believed in the Great Spirit. What if they all are similar in the fact that, we all believe in this creation, in a relatively similar creation story, that there was this one being that created the universe and everything. We all, we share a lot of morals with everybody. It's just, I think, different ways of interpreting the same God, in my opinion. So I don't think, and I also don't think that heaven is anything like what Hollywood says it is. I think it is going to be a shock, because I don't think it's going to be anything like any of us are imagining.
Or white lights floating. That's what I imagine.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly, I don't even think we can imagine it. Who knows? It could be a higher dimension. I don't think any of us could definitively say that answer. I think it's a great thought experiment. And I want to applaud you and thank you for asking me that question, because that was a great question. But ultimately, I think the Holy Spirit makes itself known to humanity in different ways. And I think people listen in different ways and have different interpretations and different perspectives. And based on their cultures and their backgrounds, they will perceive it in different ways. And so I think God can work in people who aren't expressly religious, and I think that expressly religious people, it's not a ticket to heaven. So,
can I ask Harry something?
Yeah.
What do you think heaven is?
I was actually about to tell you if you want to hear. Okay,
go for it.
My philosophy is kind of unique. Okay. I kind of gained it because my dad is very spiritual. I kind of inherited from him, kind of put my own ideas into it. So I believe that God and the universe, and I mean the physical universe, are the same thing. And the universe,
I have had the freaking exact same thought.
I believe it's the
No, keep going.
And okay, the universe is obviously, it's massive. It's obscure, and I don't think it's just stars, dust, gas. I think it's a lot more than that. I think when you think of God, I think it's one and the same, and we're all kind of part of that universe. Yeah. So in a sense, kind of, I don't want to say we're all part of God, but kind of in a sense we are.
You are on to something that is great.
I feel like when we pass on, it's like we just kind of move on. Our consciousness moves to some other plane, And I want to say that we move on to our own version of heaven. Like, whatever we think,
Maybe.
that's just...
Obviously.
Because I don't know what heaven is.
Yeah.
And I just like to believe, I like to believe that when we pass on, it's our version of perfect, or maybe we just become the universe, or... I don't have,
I think that's a little closer, honestly. But
that's what I have. That's my belief.
So, I think that's fascinating. And I'll tell you guys stories after the podcast about why I think that's fascinating. I'll say a little bit on the podcast, but no, I have had that same thought, and you know what that goes back to?
What?
Exodus. Do you know why?
What?
Moses in the burning bush. Do you know how?
How?
I am who am. Is what God says. Moses asks, "Who are you?" And God says, "I am who am."
Explain a little bit more.
Honestly, that's the best way to explain it.
Who am?
I am who I am that is. God is that is. God is everything, everywhere, all the time.
Say to the sons of Israel, I have sent me to you. I am who I am.
Interesting. Yeah, it's like when you move on, it's like, what do you become? You know?
No, you're onto something really good right there.
Honestly, it's kind of an exciting prospect for me. It's like,
you're onto something really good right there. I think that's a good good way to end the podcast.
Sure.
So before we go ahead and end it, bring up the ads one more time, Matthew. And
I love those ads.
We had a good conversation tonight. Thanks for being here, Jair.
Of course.
And
Thanks for the comments.
yeah, thank you for the comments. Thank you for the comments. We didn't get to all of them, but hey, if you liked the conversation we had tonight, you hit the subscribe button, the bell for notifications, so you don't miss another episode of the AstroCast live. We are live Mondays at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I already said every Monday. Clips come out Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 2 p.m. and the podcast comes out on audio form everywhere you find podcasts at 5 p.m. on Fridays. And you can follow me at joe.seesall on Instagram and.
Oh, you want to talk to the camera?
Oh, I want to talk to the camera.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I've been talking to Jair the whole time.
What's happening?
But yeah, I think that's a good spot to end it. Thank you guys for being here. Matthew, you've been an awesome producer. Jair, great talking to you.
My pleasure.
That was a great conversation. I'm glad it didn't get too political.
Oh,
because
yeah.
last week's 2 weeks ago got really political.
Oh yeah.
And we're gonna have a guest on that we're literally gonna have political debates.
Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna be wild.
So it's gonna be interesting. And I know for a fact that he has, in some instances, polar opposites viewpoints to what I have.
Opposite of Joe.
So it's gonna be really fun. So with that, I think we're gonna end it. So thank you guys so much for tuning in.